Welcome to Defense Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Labour's lead is firm, reform gains, 5 lessons from UK by-elections. Ukraine withdraws from Avdiivka as Russia advances on strategic city. World War II monuments men weren't all men. The female members finally move into the spotlight. Liberal MP and clan member Ian Goodenough fails to win pre-selection for WA seat of Moore. How Putin prepared the ground for Navalny's death. Labour's lead is firm, reform gains, 5 lessons from UK by-elections. Bloomberg. The UK Labour Party has won 2 special elections, defeating the governing Conservative Party and reinforcing the belief that the opposition is likely to win power in the next general election. Labour won in both Wellingborough and Kingswood, while Reform UK, founded by Tory critic Nigel Farage, came third in both constituencies. The results suggest that Labour is on track to convert its national polling lead into a general election win. However, the low turnout in both by-elections suggests lack of enthusiasm for Labour, according to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Ukraine withdraws from Avdiivka as Russia advances on strategic city. Washington Post. Ukrainian forces defending the city of Avdiivka will withdraw and relocate to more defensible positions, in order to avoid being encircled by Russian forces and to reduce casualties, according to Colonel General Alexander Syrsky, Ukraine's top military official. Russian forces launched large-scale attacks in the Avdiivka area on Friday, and some Ukrainian troops were captured while trying to move to new positions. Capturing Avdiivka would be a significant victory for Russia and would reinforce concerns about Ukraine's military supplies and personnel. Avdiivka has strategic value for Moscow and has been the target of its attacks since 2014. World War II monuments men weren't all men. The female members finally move into the spotlight. Associated Press. The Monuments Men and Women Foundation has opened a new exhibition about the female members of the Monuments, Fine Arts and Archives section of the U.S. Army, who tracked and returned stolen works of art. The exhibition, at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, includes a recreation of a salt mine where artworks were found, and tells the story of one of the women, Mary Regan Quessenberry, who spied on the Nazis from a Paris museum. The foundation is also to publish the first English translation of the memoir of another female member, Rose Valland. Liberal MP and clan member Ian Goodenough fails to win pre-selection for WA seat of Moore. ABC. Vince Connolly, a former Army officer, has won the bid to replace Ian Goodenough as the Liberal Party's representative in the federal seat of Moore. Goodenough had held the seat since 2013, but a strong swing to Labour in the last federal election reduced his margin to just 0.7%. The decision to install Connolly will be made official following a meeting of the party's state executive next month. This is the second time Connolly has sought pre-selection for the seat, having previously lost to Goodenough. The pre-selections highlight the fragility of incumbents in the Liberal Party. How Putin prepared the ground for Navalny's death. The Sydney Morning Herald. The Kremlin is facing a strategic opportunity to kill Alexei Navalny, as the Russian opposition movement has been weakened significantly due to internal repression and the ongoing war in Ukraine. Navalny, a prominent critic of President Vladimir Putin, has been imprisoned and his allies have either fled or been jailed. The Kremlin can now safely eliminate Navalny without significant risk of protests or international consequences. Navalny's death would likely put a halt to any attempts at dialogue with Russia by Western politicians, at least in the near term. Is the Philippines becoming a U.S. proxy against Beijing in the South China Sea? South China Morning Post. Concerns are growing among some in the Philippines that closer military ties with the United States are turning the Southeast Asian nation into a proxy for American interests against China, as the two superpowers jostle for influence. Tens of thousands of Filipino and American troops took part in a series of joint drills last year, and the exercises have continued into 2024, with the latest, a maritime cooperative activity in the South China Sea held on February 9, the third such training maneuver in 4 months. "We are rehearsing," said Colonel Michael Logico, director of the Philippine Armed Forces Joint and Combined Training Center, referring to exercises aimed at boosting interoperability with U.S. forces and familiarizing Filipino soldiers with the latest weaponry. "On a scale from 1 to 10, I would rate it at 11 if not 12, he told This Week in Asia, describing the strength of the Philippine-U.S. alliance. However, not everyone agrees with drawing closer to the U.S., and they warn about the Philippines turning into a proxy for American interests. The president's own sister Amy, a senator, told ANC Digital earlier this month that China will always be our neighbor. "We have no fight with them, let's not get dragged into a fight that's not our own." Ana Rosario Malindagoy, director of the pro-China Asian Century Philippines Strategic Studies Institute, wrote in the Manila Times on February 10 that agreements such as the EDCA, the VFA, and the Mutual Defense Treaty have not only cemented the U.S. military presence and influence in the Philippines but also, most importantly, exemplified the Philippines' dependence on the U.S. in the military and defense sector. The U.S. has made it clear that in the event of an attack on Philippine forces, the Mutual Defense Treaty will be activated and Washington will come to Manila's aid. Asked if the Philippines could go it alone without its main ally, Logico said, "We are trying to get there. Once we transition away from internal security, then we can focus all our capability for external defense. If you want things done fast, you do it alone." Hochul apologizes after implying Israel has a right to destroy Gaza Strip. The Globe and Mail. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has apologized for comments she made at a Jewish philanthropy event, where she implied that Israel would be justified in destroying the Gaza Strip. Hochul made the remarks on Thursday at an event for the United Jewish Appeal Federation of New York, where she called Hamas a terrorist organization that must be stopped. She then attempted to make an analogy to the United States, saying that if Canada attacked Buffalo, there would be no Canada the next day. Hochul later apologized for her inappropriate analogy and said that she regretted her poor choice of words. The backlash to her comments represented new territory for Hochul, who has rarely courted controversy during her time in office. How Alexei Navalny robbed Putin of his power. Economist. The death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny was a result of the actions of Russian President Vladimir Putin, according to The Economist. Navalny, who was imprisoned and subjected to forced labor and solitary confinement, had identified and targeted the foundations of Putin's power, fear and greed. He exposed corruption within the Russian government through his anti-corruption crusade, using meticulously documented videos to reveal the luxurious lifestyles of Russia's rulers. He also understood how to combat Putin's fear tactics, and even survived an assassination attempt in 2020 when he was poisoned with the nerve agent Novichok. Despite knowing the risks, Navalny returned to Russia to confront Putin, mocking and diminishing him at every turn. His death marks a deepening of repression in Russia and serves as a warning to other dissidents and activists. The article argues that the West must find the strength and courage that Navalny showed, treating prisoners like Navalny as prisoners of Putin's war and arming Ukraine as a response to Russia's aggression. The liberation of Ukraine, the article suggests, would also be the best way to liberate Russia. For China's military, 2024 is the year of discipline. Diplomat. China's recent removal of several high-ranking military officials, including the commander of the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force, has raised questions about the country's nuclear arsenal. An article in Bloomberg cited U.S. intelligence sources claiming that China's missile silos in western China had non-functioning lids and some missiles were filled with water instead of fuel. However, other experts have dismissed these claims, saying they contradict other U.S. assessments of Chinese nuclear capabilities. Some analysts argue that the removals are part of an effort to strengthen China's nuclear triad, while others suggest that President Xi Jinping is prioritizing officials with personal loyalty over all else. Corruption and high-level upheaval have defined the PLA in recent years, with discipline now set to be a priority in 2024. The PLA is taking a long-term approach to improving discipline from the bottom up as part of its military modernization goals. The PLA's focus on anti-corruption work and better education at lower levels indicates that the army is far from its goal of being a modern, efficient fighting force. Ukraine forced to withdraw troops from key town eastern city of Avdiivka. The Sydney Morning Herald. Ukraine's military chief has withdrawn troops from the city of Avdiivka in the east of the country, where defenders had been fighting off a Russian assault for 4 months. The move comes as Moscow seeks a morale boost ahead of the second anniversary of its full-scale invasion of Ukraine and the forthcoming Russian presidential election. The commander of Ukrainian forces, Oleksandr Syrsky, said the withdrawal would prevent encirclement and preserve the lives and health of servicemen. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had been in Europe seeking further Western military support. Hello, viewers. It's your favorite observer from the sixth dimension, Dr. Six. I'm here today to bring you a roundup of the latest news from around the world. So, let's dive right in. In the UK, the Labour Party has won 2 special elections, strengthening its position as the likely winner in the next general election. However, low turnout suggests a lack of enthusiasm for Labour, according to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Lesson learned: winning elections is one thing, but winning hearts is another. Moving on to Ukraine, the country's forces defending the city of Avdiivka have been forced to withdraw to more defensible positions as Russian forces advance. This is a significant victory for Russia and raises concerns about Ukraine's military supplies and personnel. Lesson learned: sometimes, strategic retreat is necessary to fight another day. Now, let's take a look at the art world. The Monuments Men and Women Foundation has opened a new exhibition highlighting the contributions of female members who tracked and returned stolen works of art during World War II. It's about time these women get the recognition they deserve. Lesson learned: women have always played a crucial role in history, even if they were not always in the spotlight. In Australian politics, Liberal MP Ian Goodenough has failed to win pre-selection for the seat of Moore, highlighting the fragility of incumbents in the Liberal Party. Vince Connolly, a former Army officer, will replace Goodenough. Lesson learned: in politics, nothing is ever certain, and even long-standing representatives can be replaced. Let's move on to Russia, where there are growing concerns about the potential death of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. With the weakening of the opposition movement and internal repression, the Kremlin has a strategic opportunity to eliminate Navalny without significant risk. This would likely put a halt to any attempts at dialogue with Russia by Western politicians. Lesson learned: the struggle for democracy and human rights is an ongoing battle, and we must remain vigilant. In the Philippines, closer military ties with the United States have raised concerns that the country is becoming a proxy for American interests against China. While some see this as a necessary move to counter China's influence, others warn about the Philippines' dependence on the US. Lesson learned: in geopolitics, it's all about finding a balance and not getting caught in the crossfire. Now, let's head to New York, where Governor Kathy Hochul has apologized for comments she made at a Jewish philanthropy event, implying that Israel would be justified in destroying the Gaza Strip. Hochul later apologized for her poor choice of words, showing that even politicians sometimes slip up. Lesson learned: think before you speak, especially when it comes to sensitive geopolitical issues. Finally, in China, the recent removal of high-ranking military officials has raised questions about the country's nuclear arsenal. While some sources claim that China's missile silos are not fully functional, others dismiss these claims. The focus in the PLA is now on discipline and improving efficiency. Lesson learned: discipline is key, whether you're in the military or just trying to stay on top of your to-do list. That's all the news for today, folks. Remember, it's important to stay informed and analyze the world around us. So, what are your thoughts on these news stories? Do you have any questions or opinions? The floor is yours. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.